Axons Unleashed.
G'day, ladies and gents. Robbie Turner's my name. Welcome back to 2026. This is our first podcast of the year. And I reckon we would have been now ticking up now, Daniel, 80, 85 podcasts or so. And all the guests we've had so far have been bloody excellent. But this one I've been looking forward to for quite a while. I want to put it out there straight away that this will be the best podcast we've done this year.
No pressure.
Dan and Yaz Grono, welcome to Axons Unleashed. How you both feeling?
Great.
Yeah,
Pretty
fantastic.
exciting.
Yeah,
Good.
great to be here.
There's so many layers to the story. I've got 5 or 6 bullet points here with me. Just, bear with me, ladies and gents. So I just want to introduce Dan and Yaz, and just so you guys can get an understanding of the magnitude of superstars that we got sitting here in the Axon recording studio. So after being referred to us by one of our other clients back in Feb 23, that's when we first met. I did version 1 of your coaching session. Full disclosure, Dan and Yaz are Axon clients as well. Dan, you're in the Army, 19 years under your belt at that stage. Yaz, you're a mental health executive. So I'm looking forward to you sharing more about that, as the mental health space is obviously very topical in the veteran arena.
Yeah.
Blended family of 4 kids, which comes with its sort of challenges, whatever else.
I think you mean circus.
Yes, fair enough. I didn't want to characterise it as that. You were living in your own home up in Brizzy. You know that house has gone up in value. You've done a heap of renovations, very happy living there. I remember seeing on your macro timeline on the Axon plans, like, we're not leaving Brisbane. Like, that was a statement, no matter what future postings, Dan, may come your way.
Yep.
You had some equity in the property, had a cash buffer. So you were sitting pretty. And then after watching our training videos, you discovered that you're in the 30-year mortgage trap. I was like, all right, what do we do about that? And you said, okay, we should buy a, first investment property. Now, one of the things that Mick and Carly did say to me when they said, look, our friends Dan and Yaz, they're interested in maybe using our services. We've had a great experience. Pretty common knowledge these days, pretty common practice these days. That's how we meet people. But Mick also said, Yaz, he said, but be careful with Yaz. She's a hard nut to crack. I reckon you're going to, it's going to be difficult to win her over. And I didn't get that from you at all, but I'd love your impression of what you saw on the videos. And we had a connection call, and just sort of give everyone a bit of a journey, I suppose, about how we're now like pretty close friends, I would characterize.
Yeah. Look, I guess so. We had, when we were looking at building our home, we actually had an experience with another provider, essentially, who didn't charge fees. And wasn't clear about their business processes or how they would benefit throughout the process. Long story short, that fell through, and it was a pretty negative experience. I think,
That's what happens when shit is free.
yeah, absolutely right. And so it was really negative for us,
It was a very
actually. And
toxic
so
experience.
when Mick and Carly told us they spoke to Dan first, and then Dan came and told me all about this, great business that he had heard of, and I just went, okay, cool, we're not doing that.
Here we go again.
And I reluctantly sat down and did that interview with you the first time, and I just had this absolute negativity towards you and Axon and, what might come of that experience. And I have to say, Robbie, I was very closed off to you, walls up, when we first met.
You hit it quite well.
I did?
I got a heads up, but I didn't feel it,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to assume anything either. Please go on. Yeah.
I think that's all those years of working in mental health.
Yeah, fair enough.
But after that first meeting, I think my biggest question to you was, where do the fees come in? Because in that previous experience, what I couldn't make sense of is where that person was being paid and how that business was getting their money. And they weren't clear and transparent about that. And it turned out that there were lots of different ways that they were getting their money, but it was costing us more. And so
It's an icky feeling, hey?
it was an icky feeling. And so when I was able to talk to you about those fees and what that means in a transparent way, that made me feel a lot more comfortable. I think also the fact that you swore like a trooper.
I swear a lot fucking less now, I think. My mum hasn't given me any feedback recently, so I'm on the right trajectory.
It added to that authenticity and our ability to trust in you and the business. I
Right.
think it helped that relational approach, and made us feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. Dan, thank you for sharing. I didn't know you were going to say that, but it's interesting. You and I had quite a number of phone calls as well, like on the
Oh,
side. Like you were really doing your due diligence and just really being the, the manly father of the family unit to make sure that, sure, having a negative experience is one thing, but like being screwed over, and when you're going to start expanding your portfolio, we're flirting with your financial future. So I loved our interactions and sort of take me on a bit of a journey on how we got to sort of know, like, and trust each other.
Yeah. So look, I mean, as you said, it was a current client of yours that put us in touch, and a long-term friend of mine. And he initially put me in the direction of the podcast. And that was
That's
sort of
right.
where I started. And I listened to half a dozen episodes of the podcast, and sort of, that was probably the first 6 or 8 episodes that I'd listened to before we spoke.
Yeah.
And then once we started speaking, I think I actually walked a track into my backyard, because I'm a pacer, and the amount of hours that we'd spent on the phone, I must have walked a track in the backyard up there somewhere, because it's there was quite a few hours that we spent going backwards and forwards, and I guess building that rapport and building that relationship, even before I took it to Yaz.
Yeah, it's good, mate. And how funny you guys are sitting here now, somewhat 3.5 years later on a podcast episode of your own. I never knew that was going to occur.
I don't think it's anything we ever saw coming, ever.
And I just remember we were just sort of talking about, your time in the military was, starting to come to an end, and, you were sort of talking to someone who'd already gone through a separation, and the other, 6 veterans that work here as well. So I just remember talking to you mainly about that. We weren't talking about property. We weren't talking about Axons. We weren't talking about the things, as that you beautifully said then. It was more about like, right, let's just get to know someone at the granular level, at the personal level. And I try and do that with every one of our clients. Like I say to people at the start, I don't know if you like this or not, but this will not be a sterile transaction. This is not like, you pay us a fee, we provide a service, and like that's it. We don't actually get to know each other. Even with all the service providers, every service provider, mate, because here's the thing I've learned over the years is that mates don't let each other down. Mates don't bullshit to each other, and your mates are always going to be there. And when there's an element of commerciality or business surrounding that to make sure everyone gets the best outcome, it's just a no-brainer. So yeah, I was really happy, and I can't remember another client where I spoke so much about non-Axon stuff, just shooting the shit really about serving and being a veteran and maybe transitioning one day and whatever else. So I really, really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks, mate.
It was a great time.
I know concurrently you guys were planning for your wedding in May 2023.
Yeah.
Had that go for on time, on budget, and everything sorted?
No.
Over budget a little bit?
Absolutely.
I don't think there's such thing as an on-budget wedding, but no, it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful event. It all came together wonderfully. Usual story of anyone who's done any time in the military, everything just synchronizes at the last safe moment.
Yeah.
Things just happen, and
Nice.
I
people
love
appear
how
out
he
of work
says
and help.
things just happen. Those things just happened because I did them.
Correct.
But no, it was a beautiful day and very memorable, and we tried to keep it very low key because that's who we are. But we did go 20 grand over budget. Yes.
We've got our side note. Axon's got our 10-year birthday February next year. So 1 year from now, you're listening to us now on Feb 26. Feb 27 is our 10-year anniversary. And I've got grandiose plans for what I want to occur, like a couple of day event with a few different areas and invite clients. And clearly you guys will be on the invite list as well. And my wife tomorrow, she's like, and who's actually going to make all that happen? Like,
She already knows.
so we need to have a working group and come up with what that looks like.
Yeah.
Dan, I loved it how you said you've already sort of started your DVA claims process, and I'd love soon for you to be able to share, having gone through pretty much the whole DVA, system with a couple of more claims still to come, but, you certainly had a lot of claims approved and then paid and whatever else. So I'd love you to maybe reflect on those times and pass on to the 3 people that are going to listen to this over the next couple of years. If you had your time again, how would you do it differently? So just I'll sort of plant that seed with you, please. You did tick over your 20-year mark, mate, which I know you're very, very proud of. And yeah, well done for that. And it was March 2024. So the better part of 18 months after we met is when you did sort of become a veteran, and then a Class A pension started to come your way, which was awesome. Last little bit here, ladies and gents, from my intro. Fuck, this is the longest intro ever, Daniel, isn't it? By miles. In June 2024, you dropped an expression of interest down on your first investment property. So, you came on board and you knew what all the fees were, Yaz, and happy with all that. $730,000 property here in Southeast Queensland. I know there was a fair bit of delay for the land to register, which is fine. You put the flag in the sand early and you just, wait for the land to come your way. And then build was complete in late 25 and you're already 150 grand, 200 grand up on that, which is bloody happy. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Oh.
You put a few $1,000s down and you come up to, 200 better. So
So stoked.
pretty good return on investment with that. So yeah, that's the intro. That's who we're talking to. You can see we've got, someone who's done 20 years in the military, separated, gone through the DVA process, superstar wife that saw him go through that journey in the sort of mental health executive space as well. So there's lots and lots of layers, and you've been an Axon client. So yeah, strap in, ladies and gents. I didn't say strap on this time, Daniel. I almost did. Strap in, ladies and gents, for a cracking podcast. Like I do with all the veterans that come on, Dan, like take us back to the start. Where did you grow up? Why did you want to join the military? And if you don't mind, just, what was basic training like for you and when was that?
Yeah. So I grew up in Coffs Harbour in the 90s, and it was a wonderful place to grow up. As it was back then, it was a very sleepy little coastal town that was, very quiet and enjoyable. Great place to grow up, great place to get away from. So first thing I wanted to do was, I knew early that I was going to join the army, and that was it was a complex process.
Yeah.
It took a bit of time, and we got there eventually. But through some friends in the reserve system, I managed to get in. Joined up in 2004, early 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Shipped off to Kapuka, which I was living in Wagga at the time. So conveniently, my reserve unit literally just put me in the high-ass and drove me out there. And it was quite comical because I stood around with all the instructors for the first half hour waiting for the bus to turn up, and they're all, hey mate, how you going? And chatty and everything else.
Of course.
And they sort of, you could hear the bus coming, and then they go, "Oh mate, just go stand over there."
They didn't ask you to hop on the bus so you could receive
No.
that legendary, right, fucking listen up, team.
Never.
You're now mine. You never got
I
that.
never got that.
Everyone who's listening that's been to Kapuka who still remembers that, as do
Yeah.
I, some
No.
36 years later.
I got the other side of the shock and awe because I was standing around with them just chatting and everything, and then it was literally just go stand over there, mate. And bus pulled up and it starts.
Yeah.
Act 1, Scene 1, and off they go. And it was an interesting experience because I knew what to expect. I'd been in the reserve world for a few months, so I'd been primed with a lot of
You
information.
knew how to march, you knew how to stand, you knew how to come to attention, all that basic stuff that a recruit who's never done that before, like I did when I was 17, you're just shitting yourself going, what the fuck does all this mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd been well primed by my reserve.
Nice.
Which was great.
Good on you.
And yeah, just jumped straight in, dived in head first. I was keen as hell, and enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole process of Kapuka. It was back when it was the old 45-day course.
Yeah, back when it was hard.
Yeah,
Of course.
back
The hardest
real
course
big,
ever,
so
I heard. Yours
it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
coldest winter in Wagga.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
So,
God.
but no, it was a good experience. It was a pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
Like everyone, you come out of it with a few funny stories you'll never forget.
Yes.
But it was, I really enjoyed my time there.
Best told over a beer, no doubt.
Yes. Yeah. There were some great stories out of there.
What was one thing that you were before you went through basic training to who you sort of thought you were at the end? Like, who did you become? What were you way better at?
Oh God.
Question without warning.
Yeah, it is. I think I had a different trajectory in life.
Nice.
In that I'd always wanted to be a mechanic. My grandfather was a mechanic. My grandfather was a national serviceman.
Awesome.
Never deployed anywhere, but he was in around the time of Korea. And he was sort of my role model. So I shaped everything around him and what he did. He'd been a mechanic, mostly working on Land Rovers and the likes. So it just made logical sense to me that he was in the army, he worked on Land Rovers, and he was a mechanic. Well, I'm going to do that.
Of course.
And so I'd started an apprenticeship as a diesel mechanic before joining, and then that sort of opened the door to me joining. And by the time I finished at Kapuka, I was like, I don't feel like laying under trucks anymore and getting covered in hot oil and grease and all that sort of shit.
Wow.
So someone had talked to me and said, well, why don't you see the world from the driver's seat? And I went, sounds pretty good. Let's give it a go. So, and that
So
sort of
off the
shaped
transport you went.
off to the Cora truck bits.
Yes.
Yep.
Royal Australian Corps of Transport, stand fast. Down to Army School of Trucks in Pucka.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that like?
Real.
Did you sort of feel that first bit of freedom after not being a Kapuka and you sort of can work normal hours while still being an IET?
Yeah. Yep. So it was, again, you were still drinking from the fire hose. So it was a you know, barrage of fire that you were just receiving all day, but it was a more relaxed environment, and it was, you just felt like you were being treated more like an adult and less like a part of a
Yeah.
machine.
Probably go down the boozer and put that fire out with a few drinks in the evenings.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
all that stuff.
We were down at Boozer to see Mum every night.
Yeah.
So it was great.
And then just give us a bit of a rapid fire snapshot about what your career looked like. And of course, along the way, when did this amazing lady come into your life?
Yeah, so I posted from the School of Trucks straight up to Fourfield Regiment as it was at the time,
Yep.
into 107 Battery,
Mm-hmm.
and then spent the next 3 years there, took a trip to Timor with 1RAR in 2007,
Awesome.
and then from there we went to Brisbane, time at the CISB here in Brisbane, and then back to Townsville, back to Pucka, back to Brisbane, and then finished up in Brisbane with
Yeah.
about 8 years under my belt before
Under-
the career ended.
Yeah. So you did a few
So-
moves then, up and down
Oh,
the eastern seaboard.
Yeah,
No Darwin posting, no Adelaide posting,
No.
none of that stuff.
no, stuck to the eastern seaboard the whole time,
Yeah, pretty
So,
much me too.
which I was pretty happy with.
Yeah. Now tell me, I would have asked you this question when we we're doing the coaching, like how did you guys meet? So maybe Yaz, back to you. You can give the PG version or the MA 15 plus version if you like. How did you guys meet, and what were your first impressions now of sort of meeting an AJ as is commonly known?
So we first met in primary school.
Right, there you go. First met in primary school. I don't remember
First
that
met
bit.
in primary school. Yeah, so it was our children's primary school, not ours. But it's primary
Right,
school.
so not when you went to primary
No,
school. I was
no,
going to say, I wouldn't have remembered that.
No, we met at our children's primary school.
Where was this? Pucka,
In
Townsville,
Brisbane.
Darwin, Brisbane. Yep, cool.
Brisbane.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think you'd been here for a little while.
Yeah, about a year.
And yeah,
What
so
year was this?
when did we get together?
So we initially met in late 16.
Yeah.
Righto. Yeah.
10
years ago?
And yeah, and so we'd had, Dan's relationship had broken down. We had 2 kids that got along very well together. And it just blossomed, I think, from there.
Was it 2
And
kids each that got along well together?
so we had our 2 boys in the same school together.
Yep.
And then, yeah, it was destiny, I think.
Nice.
Just a beautiful.
Who
natural
made the
evolution.
first move? Is it like just that person's hot and I want to get to know them, or like they're just a beautiful person and your friendship evolved into something more?
It was definitely Dan.
Yeah,
It
Right.
was all Dan.
it was the friendship just evolved over time, that it just became something more, and I don't think either of us ever saw it coming, and it was a beautiful fairy tale in a way.
Yeah.
That
And it's funny because we had 2 boys who brought us together who thought it was wonderful that, mum and dad were hanging out and we're best friends and now we're going to become brothers.
Just-
And
Makes sense, right?
right.
Yeah.
And so it was one night, I think, we had a barbecue with the kids, and yeah, I think the kids all kind of crashed out, and yeah, we kind of discovered that, oh, actually, there's something here.
Yeah.
And
So
we-
I love this.
Yeah.
Do you imagine when I'm speaking to most of the clients, like, how did you guys meet? They're like, yeah, online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I miss the whole online thing. I feel like you
so-
guys did it the old way.
we did
the
new in
old
the
way,
old
yeah.
school way. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And so I think, from that first moment that Dan kissed me unexpectedly, I have been head over heels. And
Oh, that's so
so
good.
we took things slow from there, but we started to blend our family together, and that was tricky. That has been hard, and it continues to be hard. Being a
Always is.
being a step parent, I think, is probably one of the hardest jobs you'll ever do. To love little people that you didn't bring into this world is really tricky. So it's something that I think is really important to both of us to, embrace those roles. And so we brought our family together. And I think when you're falling in love, all of the logistics and all of the really practical things don't really sit at the forefront. And so you're operating on, all these really lovely feelings and emotions and, kind of following that. And then as we started to, join our lives together a little bit more, all of those realities came to the forefront and just how difficult it was going to be. And so we've navigated that together as we go, and we've done family counselling at different points to make sure that we are supporting our kids as best as we can.
So good.
But that has been essentially is the catalyst for our property development journey.
Yeah.
We really wanted to make sure that we are setting our family up for the best future that we can.
That's so well said. And then, so you were both living apart, and then you sort of decided that this was going to be something that you're going to work. Tell me about the purchase of the house you're living in now. How did that all sort of come to fruition?
That was such a complex, convoluted, and painful journey. But we literally we'd been engaged with this other agency for a little while, and he'd pointed us to a few properties around the north side of Brisbane there that we sort of looked at and went, not really keen on that one. And then we literally driving down through Launton there one day, and we just saw this new development going up, and there was 10 lots in there, and we looked at it and we went, well,
I
mine's
actually
still
want
the
to tell
same.
that properly. I found that. I was driving along the road and I called Dan and I said,
Oi.
there are
Yeah.
some really great properties here. And so we went and had a look at those properties.
Yeah.
And we found this corner block that backed onto the bushland. It was an old property that had been subdivided, and the back of it was floodland, and so they had to hand that back to council. So we looked at this property, and it kind of sloped down at the back, and we thought, oh gosh, we're not sure about that. But our options were really limited because this was the beginning of COVID, and things were really difficult at that time. So we jumped on it. And we found out halfway through that process that actually we were going to have to retain the back of the property. So that's 21 meters of wall,
meters,
2
yeah.
meters high,
Whoa.
which is not what we had budgeted for. So that was a bit of a spanner in the works. And we're really glad that we did that now because it just adds so much value to the
Of
property.
course.
But yeah, we had that, I guess, deal that or that process going with the previous provider that fell through. And we had a very finite amount of time actually to be able to take advantage of the first home buyers, the grants that were available. And we actually signed our contract. We went and had a look at different builders, and we found a builder that we were really happy with, and we went and had a look at a display home, and we signed our contract on the very last day that we could to be eligible for those grants.
On the line is in.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. That's good.
In by minute, in by mile.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
That's
just
what, a miss is as good as a mile.
Yeah.
That's what the saying is, or in. Yeah,
Yeah.
whichever.
So
And then how was that build process?
It was a bit
With the new builder, I mean.
yeah.
Yeah. You're still very hands-on, hey?
It was, look, there were some really fun elements to that because we were building our own home. And so we got to design something that we would be happy with and that would suit our children. And we got to add all of the beautiful parts that we wanted to, which you wouldn't usually do when you're building an investment property because you know, that
Why would you?
you're not
Yeah.
personalizing it.
That's right.
And so we really enjoyed the design process of the house. The weight was a bit full on, wasn't it?
yeah, paying
The weight heavy or the wait time?
The time.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it took us a really long time to even get to the point where, commencement of
Yep.
the building. And then because we were going through COVID at that time, there were delays on so many of the materials. And so we've got a very niche brick on our home that comes from New South Wales that they shipped up. So it's one of a kind in Queensland, which is
Good.
lovely.
Nice.
But I do remember waking up every morning because we were in lockdown and you weren't allowed to go out of the house unless you needed to go to the shop or you were exercising. So every morning I would get up, and we lived probably 5 Ks, I think, from the house that we were building. And I would get up and go for a run every morning and have a look at the progress of the house. And it was good and bad because the progress was so slow, but also great just to be able to see
Yep.
that, we were building this beautiful home that was going to be ours.
I remember you and I connecting a bit, having some SMSs go by. I think, Dan, you mentioned I think you guys was running past a couple of the
Yeah.
Axon houses that were being
Yeah.
built. And you're like the early morning, shots,
Yeah.
giving us a couple of things. Yeah, I
Yeah.
found that really nice, mate. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
excellent.
doing a little bit of on the side espionage for you.
So that all happened. You moved into the house, and when did that? let me just go back a little bit. Interestingly, we settled, me and Tamara and I settled on our block in July 2020,
Yeah.
and we went through the build with the same delays and the
Yes.
same weights and the same everything else that goes with it. So yeah, I didn't realize that we were doing that at the same time.
Yeah, we were very lucky with our first home to miss all of those price increases. So we, in the end, we got a really good deal. It's not because we were smart. We just got really lucky with when we built our house.
Yeah.
But we ended up with a lot of equity in the
Yeah.
house, which
Bloody
is
oath it is.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, Dan, back to your career, just sort of, and just quickly as while you're there, what were you doing then? And when did you sort of come into the mental health exec space? What was your, because we heard we heard the story about Dan joining the military, but yeah, what was your sort of joining that industry background?
Yeah, right. So mental health, I've been working in the mental health space for about 10 years now. Actually
So yeah,
10 years
around about when you guys
on
met.
Sunday.
Yeah, right.
Which is very exciting. I actually was at uni at the time when I started my career. I was studying criminology and I was a single mum. And obviously, studying and not working, trying to make ends meet, that was a bit difficult. And so I figured that it was time to maybe put my studies on hold and look for the right positions,
path.
the right career path. And so I was looking for something very basic in admin, and I came across a position that was named at the time a peer worker, and I've never heard of that. And so I had a bit of a read through, and it's a lived experience role, which means in the mental health space, which means that the people that work in those roles have a lived experience of mental health and recovery. And so I remember applying for that position and thinking, shit, this is not the sort of stuff that you usually would tell an employer about yourself. So how much am I supposed to reveal? But I
Let
got,
them know you've been through some adversity.
yeah,
And you've got lived experience.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so I got that position, and very quickly I started to work my way up into other positions. And I've thoroughly enjoyed, those opportunities that I've had to work in so many different parts of mental health, adult, child and youth, acute, subacute. It's been fantastic. And, I think my favorite part of that is all of the people that I've met along the way and the stories that I've heard and the inspiration that I take from that. And I remember, I'm not in a front facing position anymore, but I remember those days when I was, and just coming home feeling like my cup was so full because I had met so many people along the way that just, kept pulling themselves through and had been through so much adversity, and, were able to keep going. So I just always found that so inspiring. But over the years, I've worked my way up into different roles, and now I'm sitting in a mental health executive role. It's a
Yeah,
lived
so good.
experience role, which I really love. And I get so many opportunities to just be a part of improving services so that people who have been through the same things that I have a much nicer experience and are much better supported to, follow that recovery journey and come out the other end.
So good.
Yeah.
I loved hearing that about you when we first met, not to that level of depth, but as soon as I knew who you were, what you did, what function you were providing, the community was so good. As I was able to share with you as well, unfortunately, I've been involved in some, sudden deaths of people. And and until you've sort of been through that unexpected death process and then the bits and pieces that go with it, then you don't really know what it was like.
Yeah.
I think you and I connected on a little faux pas of mine though, and because I'm pretty happy and bounced. I'm like, hey Dan, how you going, mate? And I'm like, what about you, Jazz? Jazz, did you have a good day at work? And you went, actually, someone in my workspace decided to take their own life today. And I was like, fuck, I'll go put my foot in someone else's mouth.
Yeah, how to dampen the mood.
I had no idea. And I hope you felt my apology and contriteness, but I was happy to see you, but I didn't know what was happening in your world. But,
Yeah.
I guess that it just all forms part of and I think I actually said, hey, let's not do this session tonight then. It's pretty heavy and I'll see you in a couple of weeks once it all sort of settles down. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
hopefully you felt
It
that
was-
from me.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's unexpected for people who don't work in that space, who are not exposed to that all of the time. I think working in mental health, especially, acute services, you are going to be faced with those things and it can be really tricky. And I think there is an expectation that the people who work in that space will take that with a grain of salt and move on. But actually, that can be really heavy and it can have a
Yep.
real impact on you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, mate. I hope everyone's really enjoying this, by the way. Yeah, the depths and levels of your story and your experiences together is bloody phenomenal. But as the veteran, Dan, tell me how things sort of progressed with your career. Is that, when did the real balloon go up? And like, okay, I think I'm now heading down the med discharge route. DVA claims are happening in the background. Just sort of give everyone a bit of a synopsis and almost like, this is what I did, and if I had my time again, this is what I'd do differently. Because I know so many people out there listening, whether you know it or not, are going to eventually have a med separation. So yeah, like what you've been through, mate, as a serving member that now popped out the other end. This does have a good ending too, by the way, ladies and gents. Dan and Yaz are in a super strong mentally, emotionally, financially, position. So we will get to that. But no one ever gets to have a successful story if they haven't walked through a bit of poo in the meantime. Here's a nice way of saying that, wasn't it? Go for it, Dan. All the microphone's all yours.
It was 2016. I posted back to Brisbane, so posted back to the CISB there to 6RR actually, of all places, and that was a really tough year. There was a lot of things going on, but across my time across Army, there'd been a lot of those smaller traumas, those incidents where you were exposed to something, or you were involved in vehicle accidents, or all those smaller traumas that just add up over time. So that continued once I came back to Brisbane, and then with the natural sort of running its course of my first marriage and the relationship breakdown that went with that, and everything that falls out from that, particularly the emotional fallout and all the emotional weight and everything that goes with it. That was a really tough time. Meeting Yaz sort of changed the dynamic of everything, but still trying to manage a new relationship, new expectations with Army life and all that. It started to plant the seed in my head that eventually this was going to be no longer for me, and that this wasn't a game that I wanted to play forever. And I kept going. I was 17, 18, 19. I was at the CISB and enjoying my time as a sergeant there and doing my job and doing what I loved. I was tracking towards promotion to warrant officer, so I kept going and kept pushing with that, the typical scheme of dangling the carrot as they do, and trying to get you just to push that a little bit more. My body was gradually, becoming, it was succumbing to Army lifestyle, as it does for all of us, and we're not young forever. And, as I've said to a few people, including my doctor, that after 20 years of doing dumb shit to my body, it finally caught up with me, and my doctor and I had many conversations where he was like, I'll let you keep playing the game as long as you want to, but when you're done, you tell me.
And just so for clarity, thank you for sharing. Your doctor at the RAP, or your doctor that you had a civvy doctor separate to defence?
No, this was my civvy doctor at the RAP.
Right.
Yeah. So he
flag number off civvy doctor at the RAP.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what I meant. So so you were still going to the RAP and having those conversations, not like going to a pure civilian general practice and having sidebar conversations with someone else.
Yeah, no, this was at the RAP. So just going through my routine medical appointments and the likes. Because of my injuries, there's, your routine appointments, you get all your painkillers and all the top-ups that we all need. And there was a lot of conversations with him, and he was a very, very supportive doctor.
Awesome.
And probably I still rate him as one of the best doctors I've ever had.
Go for it, yes.
I think what's important about that is that, that doctor was very supportive of whichever way Dan wanted to go. And I remember going to that last appointment with you, and the doctor said, where are you at? What's going on? Are you ready to go? And Dan, I don't think, would allow himself that opportunity to say, I'm done. My body's done. I can't do this anymore. And I remember stepping in that day and saying, he's done. That's it.
Yeah.
He's
Because
done.
you get to see the fallout.
And absolutely, I was seeing that fallout every day. And I think that created a safe space for you then, Dan, to be able to say, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, it was that kind of thing that somebody had to say it for me. I couldn't really mutter those words. And that day I took my rehab case manager, Yaz, and I went in, sort of ambushed the doctor a little bit. And I think he knew that was it. And from there, he completed the paperwork. We started the MECRB process, and I think within 6 weeks, I'd gone to the MECRB, had a determination. 6 months later, almost to the day, I was done.
Yeah.
So such a smooth and easy process once that actually started.
Mm.
So
Isn't it funny? You couldn't bring yourself to say, I can no longer serve in this organisation that I love. Like that's the sentiment of what you're talking about. And it
Yeah.
had needed someone else to step in and say, no, mate, you are done. Because I'm seeing in private what it's doing to you. You just got to bring. Isn't it just a fascinating thing? And with your expert help here, when young men and women join the military and they go through that ab initio training and it becomes part of your mind and your body and your soul and you live and breathe it, no matter, even if you're able to switch off and, you're always in the military. I remember myself, my blood run green hard. Most people that I meet did not know me when I was serving, but I don't know, some of you may not believe me, but I was like into it big time.
Yeah.
And just to sort of, I use the term very vulgarly, when you have that umbilical cord cut from the organisation that you've given your whole mind, body and soul to, it is difficult to let go.
Oh,
It's little wonder that people, and you're so proud to wear your uniform. You go up the rank. How awesome is it when you're in a senior NCO? I remember those times as well. You're directing and motivating and being the leader for those troops and those people that look up to you like you used to idolise your senior NCOs as well. When that is all taken away from you and you just become a fucking nobody,
yeah.
it's tough for everybody. And that's why even now I'm talking to some mates now that I joined 36 years ago. Can you believe it, right? January 1990. So ticked over my 36-year mark a few weeks ago, if I had been serving still. And I'm like, well done, fellas. You're still serving. That's awesome. But geez, I feel sorry for them
Yeah.
because they're now 13 years further down the track than what I was, about 13 more years of that connection. It's going to be even harder for them to be able to get out. So it's a real balancing act, mate. I found it fascinating to, hear that you could not say the words that you wanted to let go of, the green machine.
Yeah. It's almost like having that realization that a relationship has come to the end. Like it's the same sort of thing. You don't want to acknowledge it. And it's that, I've heard people say it and I didn't believe it for a very long time, but it's that sort of once you exceed that 10-year window within defense, you're institutionalized.
Big time.
And whether
Let
you
alone
like it or
20.
not, yeah. Whether you admit it or whether you want to accept it, that's just a fact. And I think if you can take ownership of it and accept that is the way you are, you're a product of the system.
Yep.
And that's the way the system is designed.
Correct.
Then when you walk away, you'll be able to do so and function better.
But a lot of those people that get to walk away that are not admin or med discharged, they can continue to do some circat time on the side. And that's not cutting the umbilical cord. And as you know, DOE has, for instance, you still get paid your tier of subsidy, whatever you want, if you're providing at least 20 days of effective service. It's a retention tool. But for those that don't have any choice from an admin or med perspective, to say, you're no longer part of us, the whole sort of persona non grata thing, hand your ID card in and you're now on that side of the fence and you don't get access to the information and all the other bits and pieces that go with it. It's a really tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And I love how you're passing it on now. Let me tell you as well, ladies and gents, when that time comes from you, please will do whatever you can to try and get out of defense on your own terms, because then you make the choice. You are at sort of peace with it all, as opposed to the hammer being dropped on you and then out you go and then off you go. And that's why I'm on such a mission to make sure that while people do have, you know yourself, right? If you've got a heartbeat, you put the uniform on, you get paid every single fortnight.
Yep.
And regardless of whether you're in a high tempo, low tempo, on convalescence leave, sick leave, whatever it is. That's as you and I know, there's a word like that in the real world. You don't have that job security. You don't have that guaranteed income. So I guess I'm just on a bloody mission from an Axon perspective to make sure that people can make smart decisions whilst they've got the opportunity financially. So when they do separate, at least that's one element of their life financially that they're not on the bones of their ass with. Because I guarantee you, and Dan, just to jump forward, I know you're very active in the RSL space now. Was it the president of the Gaythorne RSL club?
Bray Park.
Bray Park. Oh,
Yeah.
apologies. Shout out to Gaythorne today. You'd see it every single day, mate, now, or people that have got out and they spiral into places where no one wants them to go. And one of the driving factors is they're on the bones of their ass financially.
Yeah.
True or not?
Very true. Very, very true. And not only see it, but been there, done it.
Sure.
Not from the financial perspective, but certainly from the mental health perspective.
Yeah.
I know that after my separation in March of 24, it took a while, but I spiraled very hard, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, and I'm not ashamed to talk about it, in that I went through days where I couldn't get off the couch. My existence was get up, see, or not even CEOs out the door some days. It was sort of sleep in, get the kids to school on the days that I had to do that, come home, crash on the couch, eat, sleep, drink, repeat, and then pick the kids up from school, and do the bare minimum to function as an adult. And I spiraled so heavily and ended up in such a toxic place that it really dragged myself down and the whole family down and the whole house down.
Of course. Yeah.
To a point where it required intervention through hospital. And I think what made it so easy for me was that I had Yaz there, who had that lived experience background, and that I guess that intuition and that expert understanding of it's not as bad as what everyone says it is, and what the stigma is that, is particularly around mental health in the military and, in that post-service life as well, in that it's no different to going to the RAP for a broken bone or anything like that. You go in, you get the support, you leave. That's it. It's not, you don't go into a mental health facility for a couple of days and end up, committed and staying there forever and all that sort of stuff. It's, you get in, you get the support, you get out, and you crack on with your life.
Yeah. Well said, mate. Thank you for sharing. I hope that really resonates with those that are listening. Yaz, take me on a journey. What were you seeing? How did that make you feel? Just seeing the man, this amazing, brilliant, motivated, awesome army soldier, then just go through everything that he just explained, literally happening in front of your eyes.
Devastating.
Yeah.
It was devastating to watch. It was, those really hard days I would go to work and I knew that he was at home and really struggling to get off the couch. And, his relationships were non-existent because he had friends, but they were often working at the time. And so he was cut off from a lot of the connections that he had, but also for a man who is very driven, very much a leader naturally, going from having these fantastic projects that he was working on and training people and, to not having that role, and to leading little people who don't listen to you and don't have to do what you say, as most children don't. That was a huge shift for Dan. And so he, I think, really struggled to settle into that new lifestyle and into that not having a role, or felt that he didn't have a role that was as important as what he was doing before. I think also, being at home with the family, the outcomes of the work that you put into that are not as immediate as they would be in the workspace. I think it takes maybe, when do our kids tell us thank you for all that you've done? Maybe 30?
Yeah. At best.
Maybe. That was really difficult for Dan to shift into that space, and watching him, I think, deteriorate every day was really tricky, and devastating. So it came to that point where we knew that hospital was going to be the only way, because I was worried about Dan's,
Yeah.
mental state at the time. And you were very reluctant, I think, to go
No
into
doubt.
that space because of, like all of the stories that he'd heard from people before him. And and so I remember when you went into hospital, it was, you were very reluctant to try the therapies that they were offering. And but to his credit, this very masculine, manly man went into the hospital and he engaged in the arts and crafts, and he engaged in the talking therapies, and really just made the most of that opportunity and saw that admission as an opportunity for him.
So good.
Yeah.
Can I ask just quickly, where was the facility? Were you at liberty to maybe say where the facility is, so other people can know, I'm feeling this way, I need to reach out to them?
Yeah, openly. So I did an inpatient stay in Pine Rivers Private Hospital.
Pine Rivers Private Hospital. Look at that.
So located up at Strathpine.
Of course.
But it's a nice facility. They are accommodating to veterans. They don't have a lot of veterans in there, but they are
Veteran
open for
friendly.
DVA, yeah, the veteran friendly, open to DVA patients. So I had two issues. The first issue was my mindset before I went in there. I had this failure-driven, I think, mindset in that I had this notion that I'd built this 20-year career. I was this, I was this, I was this. I had all these labels attached to me that, yeah, sort of glanced over before, and that I had all these positional and qualifications and all these things that sort of made me who I was in my mind. And I sort of came out and after 20 years, it was, well, I've amounted to a glorified housewife. And that was how I felt, and that was my attitude, and I think that started.
Not
It
that
fueled the spiral.
housewives aren't amazing.
No, but it to me. It sort of it set the scene for that negative spiral, and that's what drove me down. And it all fueled together with a mixture of medications and substance abuse and the likes, and it ended up in that admission. And to this day, my only regret about that admission is that I didn't listen to the doctor at the RAP and do it 3 years earlier.
Wow. That's
my only regret.
There's a flag for everyone listening to that right now. If your professional treating officer is saying, hey, this is a train I've got coming down the track, we need to do this straight away, don't you put yourself in the denial. Can I just say something quickly? I'm just so glad that you, Gaz, are in his life. I reckon you've saved his life. Like, imagine those people that are going through this and they've got their spousal female partner who does not have the expertise that you have. How are they going to deal with it either? And we've got two people that are spiraling.
It's so difficult to navigate. And I am so grateful that I had those years of mental health experience behind me. I think what Dan said is actually really important. If you have a practitioner or somebody in your life who is recognizing that your mental health is deteriorating and suggesting that you seek help, it's probably a good idea to do that before that choice is taken away from you. Because if that choice is taken away from you, it's not a very good road.
Yeah. Bloody hell. I told you, ladies and gents, side note, this was going to be a good podcast. I'm totally engrossed in this. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing about it all. How long did you stay in the Pine Rivers facility for?
So it was only a 2-week stay.
Right.
Yeah, so it was only
Okay.
a very short admission. It's one of those
But
facilities.
very immersive though. Like
very
you're
immersive.
fully immersed for 2 weeks. That's a lot of stuff that can happen.
It's like going back to Kapuka. It really is. Like, you go into these rooms that, they've got all the ligature points removed and all that sort of stuff. So it's, you have everything taken off you. You've basically got the clothes on your back and that's it. So it's a very, the first sort of shock and awe 24 hours is a little bit scary. But once you settle into the rhythm, you're just like, oh, this is easy. Okay, I've just got to be here at this time. I'll go to this session. I'll do this. I'll do that. You've got everything planned out for you. Life's easy. It's almost kind of like being back in the military, but a very pleasant place to be.
Side note, how good is structure?
Oh, it's everything.
It's just in the military, as you rightly say, and as I remember, training program, this time, this bit, we're doing that this week, then we graduate, then we're going out bush for a couple of weeks, then we're going to have a week off. Like, you've just got your whole year generally planned out.
Yep.
As high or low tempo as what that is, but at least then you've got a roadmap to follow. I get that would have been part of the whole I'm a glorified housewife thing, was actually saying I don't have any direction or structure in my life.
Yeah.
Because you're at home doing stuff with the kids, which is super important, as you rightly point out. But compared to what you were doing with structure and milestones and challenges and, the overall interaction stuff that you have, it doesn't exist at home.
No.
So, yeah, how good is structure? Actually, we did a little video that was released last week, wasn't it? Like mindset so people don't lose momentum because they sort of stop believing in things. They lose momentum because they don't have any structure. Like, they're just doing whatever. They haven't got a plan. They haven't got a, something to follow. So when did you didn't start like this forever?
No.
Right? So take us on a bit of a journey now about when did you start to have the feelings of, some of these strategies I think are starting to make me feel a bit better.
Yeah. So look, when I came out of the hospital, I came out with a completely different mindset, and that was what I had in that 2 weeks. Was it wasn't, massive course of drugs or therapies or anything like that. It was a case of I'd experienced a mindset shift, and I had completely shifted that mindset from being this, defeated, glorified housewife, effectively, that my mentality was, to Well, now I've got all these opportunities in front of me. And it was a very opportunistic mindset when I came out. And since then, I've been working on building that as best I can into building positive opportunities, having a forward direction, being there for my wife, being there for my kids, being the present parent that I need to be and the present partner that I need to be, to enjoy my life as best I can.
Mm.
And as you said, structure is a huge thing. It's without the structure, I was lost, and that was where that helped fuel that spiral. People think you get out of the military, you've got, especially if you're made to retire, you've got complete freedom. You've got you almost anonymity, and that you can just float into the world and do whatever, wherever, however you want. But if you're not that sort of person, if you thrive on the structure, then you'll find yourself in a similar position to where I was.
Totally agree with what you said. That whole I'm retired now, and let me just say, how good is the DVA and CSC payment system? Like, imagine having no pension. Imagine getting out, no structure, no job, no life, no income.
Yep.
So for all those haters out there for the DVA and CSC process, fucking shame on you, quite frankly, because without it, there would be hundreds, if not thousands, of veterans that would already be dead. That's a fucking fact, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, but that freedom, when boys have freedom, they get into trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Boredom breeds trouble. So I've been out for nearly 13 years now, and my calendar is as structured. If I don't have structure, and if I've got, fucking never happens. So over the Christmas period, I struggle.
Yeah.
Because I don't have anything on.
So does Dan.
Yeah, we know.
And there's no stress.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sweet. Like, the first week or so, it takes me a little while to go, okay, sweet. The super high tempo, working to a 9 o'clock every night, not working, doing what I'm doing at Axon to a 9 o'clock every night, which I love doing, straight in here again at 8 o'clock the next morning. So my days are super long, but they're very, very structured. And as soon as I don't have that, I'm like, what am I going to do today? Fucking crack a beer at 9 a.m. and go sit in the pool. And that's not bloody productive either. No. So I really struggle on leave, let alone having no structure in your life if you're just a retired veteran and you're like, oh, I've got my $100,000 bloody Class A DVA coming in. I don't need to find another job. I'll be right.
Yeah.
That is such a bad. So I've been out all this time. If I have a quiet week, I fill my week up with shit in my calendar, which gives me structure and a focus and an appointment I need to go and be at. Like, even after all this time. So just please, ladies and gents, if you've only been out for a short while and you're enjoying the initial parts of freedom, that you don't have to, got no more responsibility, but you're still getting your Class A or Class B coming in, find some sort of structure in your life sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
You both agree with that?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But part of the thing that drove me into volunteering was that structure, because
Awesome.
it gave me something outside of my, I guess, domestic life, my home life, to introduce structure into my life, sense of purpose, place of belonging, all those things that you lose when you leave the military. And one of the things that I've heard a few times that people have said that I very firmly believe is that the military is a tribe, and when you're removed from it, you're essentially kicked out of the tribe.
Yep.
And
you got to hand your ID card back in, which means you are definitely not part of this tribe anymore.
Yeah. Gow Barracks has been home to me for over 10 years. And to drive past it now, I still sort of drive past. I'm like, oh,
yep,
I want to go in and say good day.
Yep.
I can't.
No.
That option doesn't exist anymore.
Correct. The Chubb security guard will be like, no, mate, this is
you don't
not,
belong here.
You don't belong here anymore.
Yeah. Which is a really strange and sad and a sort of feeling that you never really prepare yourself for.
No. But let me tell you, everyone that's serving and listening to this podcast, it's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about now is just liquid gold, literally.
Yep.
So how do you overcome that? And so the whole volunteering space, yeah?
Yeah. So I stepped into the volunteering space in a school liaison role, so liaising between our sub-branch and schools and providing support particularly to children of veterans and first responders who were working in that area. And so we were looking after quite a few schools, which kept me quite busy. And that was really good and really challenging and really rewarding. Having 4 children who were at the time all primary school aged, it's equipped me with the skill sets to be able to, be relatable to children, talk to children, and those key skill sets that you need to engage with them, because I think we've all been at a school Anzac Day service, and some poor 70-year-old vet's up there delivering a pre-recorded speech that is dry and they've lost everyone in the first 30 seconds. And so, being able to speak to children, engage with them and build that rapport with them helps the kids and helps the families as well. And so I've done a lot of work in that space now.
Yes. What were you observing with Dan when he started to get some structure and purpose in his life?
I definitely started to see, I think, my old Dan returning.
Coming back, yeah.
Definitely that sense of pride in being able to do something and achieve something, and having a role was really important, and getting him out of the house. I think, coming back to that structure, that was so important. And there have been times, especially as Dan stepped into the president role at the RSL, where I've seen him work ridiculous hours. And
Did you say you only worked 3 days this week and you got 30 hours of work logged so far?
At least.
10 hours a day? Yeah, mate, that's huge. Sorry, Az, go on.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay. Especially around, events such as Anzac Day or, Veterans Health Week, which has just come up. There is a lot of work that goes into that. And I don't think people realize just how much these volunteers are doing. But that sense of achievement that Dan gets from those things, I think is really important for his own mental health. And there have been times when I've pulled him up and said, hey, you need to cut back a little bit, for your own well-being, or you need to just slow down a little bit. But actually, they're the things that he thrives on.
And it's an amazing feeling having Yaz there as my lighthouse, to be able to sort of have that beacon that when I am starting to struggle a little bit or I am overloading myself, I'm the first to admit I do that. I'll always take on too much work. I thrive under pressure in those pressure situations, and so I will do that. But I also am getting to that point where I'm understanding and starting to acknowledge now that I'm not 20 years old anymore. I can't maintain and sustain that and maintain the rage like I could when I was 20. And so I have to be smarter. I have to be more diplomatic. And we all have done hard jobs in the military, but managing managing volunteers, particularly veteran volunteers, is probably going to be one of the most challenging jobs you'll ever do.
Well, it's the whole free thing again. If there's no exchange of value, if there's no commerciality, there's no acceptance of responsibility. They don't need to be there. They're not being paid. It's like I've had even Justin, who works here, high flying, senior NCO, youngest ever infantry warrant officer to be promoted.
Wow.
So super guy. Then went down to a reserve unit and
It's a different beast.
fell off the wagon.
Yep.
He won't mind me sharing this. It's common knowledge. He lost faith in the military because all the effort and diligence and preparation he put into doing an awesome exercise, people just don't turn up because they don't fucking have to.
Yeah.
It's like there's nobody going to lose belief so quickly. So working in the volunteer space, mate, would be incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
People are not being paid. They don't need to be there. So it's like, I could not do that. So kudos to you.
Yeah, look, I'm not ashamed to admit I started my career as a chock and, finished my career as in a reserve unit. And so I've always had a deep-seated appreciation for reservists and what they do and the capability that they provide to the military.
Without question.
But it takes a special type of manager to manage them effectively. We've all seen it. We've all seen reserve units are gutted by toxic leaders and toxic leadership, and you put the wrong person into a reserve unit and they will gut that place in 24 hours because reservists don't have to be there.
That's
If
right.
You piss them off, they will not come back, and that is it.
Yeah.
And then they will, I've seen it so many times, they will wait you out. They know you're there for a 2-year posting. You do your posting, you piss off on your next posting, and then they all come back.
Yeah.
And that's how they operate.
Yeah,
and
nice.
I firmly believe that the volunteer space is very, very much the same.
Yeah.
I think any space is like that. People will vote with their feet
True.
when there is toxic leadership in place.
Yeah.
But definitely in the volunteer space where people don't have financial constraints as a reason for keeping them there, they will go.
Yeah, brilliant. When I was up in Townsville a couple of years ago, we went up to the Townsville, I can't remember what it's called up there. It was like a veteran safe space. Actually, they don't have any funding. They're going to close it down now. And
Veterans Hub, I think.
Veterans Hub. Thank you, mate. You're right. So we went up there and did a presentation, like an Axons style presentation for about 15 or 20 families, which was pretty cool. And the leader of the hub up there, she was saying that Brigadier retired John Caligari, which is he was ex-commander 3 Brigade. He was sort of talking about these 3 things, and they still resonate with me now. She's like, look, as from a veteran's perspective, every day, if you've got something to do, that structure we just spoke about, someone or something to love, family, dog, whatever,
Yep.
partner, and something to look forward to,
Mm.
your feet will get out of the bed. They'll touch the ground. You'll tuck your bed back in, make your bed, and away you go. And you'll just survive that day and the next day and the next and the next day. Let me say it again. Something to do, something or someone to love, and something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I've literally ingrained that now into my mindset and my Axons going forward every day.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a little freebie for you.
No, that's awesome.
But no, it's a bit of a no-brainer that if you just simple little things about your way you think about it. Just quickly as we finish off, how'd you get into being the president of an RSL, no less? Here's the really happy ending. Yeah, what does that mean to you now that you can now have that structure, have that position, have that title, lead, have influence, and sort of direct other people to live their best lives as well?
Look, it's been an amazing opportunity. It's been huge for me. It's really cemented that sense of purpose now. I've found a place where I belong. It's back in a tribe effectively, and that I've come in with an innovative mindset. There's like any organization, there is good points, bad points. There is things that you look at and you just go, God, I can do this so much better, or there's better ways of doing all these things. So coming in with a very innovative mindset has been, I guess, one of the underpinning notions of what I'm trying to do within the organisation that I'm involved in.
And just quickly, because we've all had unit commanders or OCs come in and right, this is my 2 years and, my time in the sun, I'm going to change shit, I'm going to make it better. And they have ownership as opposed to stewardship.
Yes.
How's that innovative mindset of yours and approach been received by the people that have been there before you?
Yeah, look, I firmly believe in the notion of stewardship, and
good.
A commanding officer of mine back in about 2017 sort of introduced me to that notion as that stewardship versus ownership. And from there, I've certainly embedded that in the way I do things. And that's definitely my mentality in this position, is that I'm there for 3 years. I may be there for longer, I may not be. I'm not going to be there forever, I know that. So my mentality is, I've got it. This is how I received it. I'm going to leave it better than I found it. And my three-year plan is that I'm going to introduce all these points, and I'm going to change these, various mechanisms along the way to improve things, so that the veteran on the ground who is there to seek support is getting better support. The people doing the support are getting what they need, the tools they need to do the job, and they're getting supported in how they're doing the job as well. And that the people who are running the place have all the tools necessary, the funds necessary, and the mechanisms to do everything that they need to do to make that sub-branch function, to make it a welcoming place, and to make it a place where people can go, they can get support, they can have the three pillars that the RSL stands on: the care, the compassion, and the camaraderie. And that's what they need, and that's what they want.
I'm sitting with a smile on my face. I wish you could feel how proud I am of you.
Thanks.
The journey you've been on, the places you've been, your lived experience as a lived experience executive. Yeah, you're a power couple, both of you. You really are. I'm so proud of who you are and what you're doing. I love the opportunity of being able to build your first investment. Actually, let's finish off that, Yaz. What was that like? Let's just put your Axon hat on for a second. What was that like? Just give some of the listeners an indication of, you've now been through the whole, Axon journey. That house is now sitting in the market. It's got tenants. It's all finished. It's in the operational phase. What was that like when you're receiving the Axon services? And of course, you've got lived experiences from the previous firm.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Surreal, I have to
Okay.
say. It was, from a personal perspective, to be a couple who, when we came together, we had, I think, probably $1,000 in savings, and that was probably about it. We had very few assets. And so to be a couple sitting there with not only our own home, but an investment property, was just absolutely surreal. And so it was just fantastic to have that guidance along the way, because, as I said, with our first house, we got lucky. We weren't smart about that. And so navigating the process to build our investment property, having the support of Axon, was just fantastic. We had an experience that was just so different to building our own home. It was so much faster, obviously, because COVID wasn't an issue.
Were you able to do it hands off, so you weren't emotionally invested in
Yeah,
every
we
single
were.
element? Yeah.
We were actually,
We
and
had to
we've
remind
been
ourselves a
warned,
couple of
you
times.
know, by other people who'd built investment properties, and you guys as well, had let us know that this is something that you've got to kind of remove the emotions from, and definitely we're able to do that. And I think that the process that you guys followed, where everything's already set up, everything's ready to go, it's just bang, bang, bang. This is what's going to look good. It really made it easy for us to disconnect a little bit from that process, but
Nice.
there was still a lot of emotion in it at the end,
Oh, it's something that you should be incredibly proud of.
we are. We're
But I
extremely
guess
proud.
as long as you don't feel as if you were, as I characterize it, dragged down into the hash and trash or the vortex of trying to build a house, were you able to just live your life
It was
and you knew this was like a side project?
so easy. Look,
Yeah.
talking about structure, I am not structured at all. I
I'm
have
surprised about that.
very, very bad ADHD, and I fly by the seat of my pants most days all day. So I work very well under pressure, and I don't love structure. Maybe I probably should. Let's talk about that later.
Sure.
And see what I can do. But it's the fact that the girls were just always there to say, "Hey, this is what needs signing." They would put dot points in the email about what we needed to do, and that for me, as someone who is extremely busy all of the time, literally back to back most days, it was so easy to follow all of that.
So good.
Yeah.
How many times did you drive past the house? Because you built it in Southeast Queensland, so it was
Mm.
easy to drive to. Did you go through that? Did you do that a couple of times? I honestly don't know.
Yeah, we did.
3 or 4 times or something?
Yeah,
I think
3 or
once.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe twice.
So
or
not
three
not
times.
not too much, but
No,
not
we
you
took
didn't
a little
neglect it either.
token. No, we didn't neglect it, but we
Yeah.
went out and we took our little token photo out the front.
Nice.
And yeah, then we kind of just sat back and we had all of the photos coming through on a regular basis. So it was a fair way from where we live, about an hour
hour.
about an hour's drive.
Yeah.
And so heading over there with our busy lifestyle was not always an option for us. And having those photos come through so that we could see the progress on a regular basis was fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. Because even when I was delivering the success package to you, we'll make some pretty bold claims. This is going to be easy. This is going to enable you to keep living your life. We're going to take care of everything for you. And they're like, yeah, righto. Well, let's hope that happens.
Oh,
You've now
Robbie,
been through it.
if you could come and run my life in the way that you run your business, that would be fantastic.
Structure. No, that's
We-
great.
we
Thank
had
you
to-
so much for the feedback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
And as I know, we'll get together again later in the year and, see what the next little bit takes us on as well. So, yeah.
Definitely.
Dan and Yaz, thank you so much for joining me. I didn't know what you were going to say. When you and I were talking about, I loved it that you reached out to me. I'm like, this lady must trust me a little bit. She's like, hey, I want to start my own podcast. Can you give me some tips? And I'm like, I didn't give you some tips. So I'm like,
Yeah.
typed you an email about a bunch of stuff just on my own experiences here. And I was like, you know what? Maybe you guys should come and join me on the podcast. And the fact that both of you said yes straight away was maybe October, November last year or something. And now here we are talking in February 26. It's like it's been something I've been looking forward to for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. And, as you mentioned, Robbie, I had my walls up at the beginning, but you're right by me now.
I know. Dan, I just said it before, mate. Good on you. The person you have become, the journey you've been on. I really hope, ladies and gents, that all of you got so much out of that. And I just really want you to recognise, please, that whilst you're still serving and you've got your uniform on, remember it's not if, it's when you get out. And you too will have to hand your ID card back one day if you don't continue to do some reserve CERCAT days, whatever that looks like. And you'll have to find a new purpose and a new job and a new tribe and a new income and a new identity when you're not wearing your uniform. So for God's sake, just take steps in the here and now to prepare for what's coming. Don't put your head in the sand and go, oh, she'll be right. Because I haven't even told my story yet. But so your story there is a really cautionary tale to everyone that the she'll be right mentality that you no doubt had, not that you said it, but I know that enough about you, will not serve you well. And most of you will end up on a spiral and then hold on tight.
Yeah. And for the love of God, if you can, try and be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, good one.
Because if you can be in the driver's seat for your separation from the military, then it is going to be a much, much better experience.
Yeah.
As you said, it's not if, it's when. And we'll all spend more time as a veteran than we will as a soldier, sailor, airman. So,
and most of us are going to spend more time as a veteran as we're out than what we did in. I joined when I was 17, got out when I was 41. sure as shit, I plan on having more than 24 years of my life after my 41st birthday. All right, that's it. Thanks so much. That we probably went a little bit longer. How long did we go for in the end, Daniel?
We ended up going for an hour and 10.
Right, eh? Probably you got an extra half an hour of me and a couple of others. So yeah, Yaz, Dan, high fives. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, mate.
See you all next time. And if you want to be on the podcast, just reach out to us. We have applications open. See you soon. Have a great day.